They lied to you about hardship. Every comfort-seeking philosophy, every self-help guru promising easy paths to success, every voice that told you suffering should be avoided, minimized, or quickly overcome. They robbed you of the most powerful tool for forging an unbreakable will. The understanding that hardships are not obstacles to your destiny, but the very instruments that create it. Resolve is the ultimate competitive advantage because it's the one quality that cannot be easily replicated, purchased, or faked. While others can copy your strategies, acquire your resources, or match your initial enthusiasm, they cannot duplicate the unshakable determination that comes only through having faced and overcome genuine hardship. The person with properly developed resolve operates from a fundamentally different psychological foundation than those whose confidence is based on talent, luck, or favorable circumstances. Their strength comes not from hoping things will go well, but from knowing they can handle things going poorly. This creates a kind of fearlessness that enables extraordinary achievement. Consider how resolve manifests in competitive business environments. When market conditions become challenging, most entrepreneurs reduce their efforts, scale back their ambitions, or abandon their ventures entirely. They interpret difficulty as evidence that their business models are flawed or that they lack the resources necessary for success. The entrepreneur with resolve-based confidence responds to market challenges by increasing their efforts, adapting their strategies, and finding opportunities that others cannot see because others are focused on avoiding the difficulty rather than exploiting it. They understand that challenging conditions eliminate weak competitors while creating opportunities for those strong enough to capitalize on others' retreat. This resolve advantage compounds over time because resolve-based individuals consistently perform better under pressure, while others consistently perform worse under pressure. During crisis periods, the gap between resolve-based and comfort-based performers widens dramatically, creating opportunities for significant advancement that are unavailable during stable periods. In career development, resolve creates advantages that talent alone cannot provide. The talented person who lacks resolve will abandon difficult projects when they become frustrating, will avoid challenging assignments that might involve failure, and will seek positions that accommodate their preferences rather than positions that develop their capabilities. The less naturally talented person with strong resolve will persist through frustrations that stop the talented person, will embrace challenging assignments as development opportunities, and will adapt to whatever demands their career advancement requires. Over time, resolve often produces better career outcomes than natural talent, because resolve creates capabilities while talent, without resolve, creates limitations. Resolve also provides what military strategists call strategic patience, the ability to maintain long-term focus despite short-term setbacks, disappointments, and apparent lack of progress. Most people abandon worthy goals not because the goals are impossible, but because they lack the resolve to persist through the inevitable difficulties that meaningful achievement requires. The person with resolve-based patience can pursue multi-year or multi-decade objectives without being derailed by temporary obstacles. They understand that significant achievements require sustained effort over extended periods, and that the ability to persist when others quit is often the primary determinant of who achieves extraordinary outcomes. This strategic patience also creates what economists call temporal arbitrage opportunities, the ability to benefit from others' short-term thinking and impatience. The resolve-based person can invest in assets that others abandon during temporary downturns, can commit to relationships that others exit during temporary conflicts, and can pursue goals that others abandon during temporary setbacks. In relationship dynamics, resolve creates attraction and respect that charisma and charm cannot produce. People are naturally drawn to individuals who demonstrate unshakable commitment to their goals and values, because such commitment suggests strength, reliability, and the potential for mutual benefit. The person with genuine resolve doesn't need to convince others of their strength. Their consistency and persistence demonstrate it automatically. They don't need to promise future commitment, because their past behavior provides evidence of their ability to maintain commitment under pressure. This relationship advantage extends to professional networking, romantic partnerships, and family dynamics. People prefer to align themselves with individuals who will persist through challenges rather than abandon commitments when things become difficult. Resolve creates trust in ways that talent or intelligence alone cannot. Resolve also provides what psychologists call outcome independence, the ability to pursue goals wholeheartedly without being emotionally dependent on specific outcomes or timelines. This independence enables more effective strategic thinking because decisions are made based on objective analysis rather than emotional attachment to particular results. The person with outcome independence can adapt their strategies as circumstances change without feeling like failures when initial approaches don't produce expected results. They remain focused on their ultimate objectives while staying flexible about the methods required to achieve those objectives. This flexibility creates significant advantages in rapidly changing environments, where rigid adherence to initial plans often leads to failure. The resolve-based person can pivot, adapt, and evolve their approaches while maintaining unwavering commitment to their core objectives. Perhaps most importantly, resolve creates what we might call reality-based confidence, self-assurance based on demonstrated ability to handle whatever challenges arise, rather than confidence based on hoping challenges won't arise. This reality-based confidence enables more accurate risk assessment and more aggressive pursuit of high-value opportunities. The person with reality-based confidence doesn't need guarantees of success before taking action because they trust their ability to handle failure if it occurs. They don't need perfect circumstances before pursuing opportunities because they've proven their ability to succeed under imperfect circumstances. This creates a profound psychological advantage over individuals whose confidence depends on external factors beyond their control. The resolve-based person's confidence is portable. It works in any environment, under any conditions, facing any challenges. Their strength comes from within rather than from without, making them independent of circumstances, while others remain dependent on favorable conditions. The resolve advantage ultimately enables what Nietzsche called amor fati, love of fate, or the ability to embrace whatever circumstances arise as opportunities for demonstrating and developing your capabilities. The person with this attitude cannot be defeated because they transform every setback into setup, every obstacle into opportunity, every hardship into strength. The ultimate product of properly embraced hardship is what can only be called an unbreakable will, a determination so complete, so tested, and so resilient that no external circumstance can shake it, no obstacle can stop it, and no setback can diminish it. This unbreakable will is not born from positive thinking or motivational slogans, but forged through the systematic application of difficulty over extended periods. The person who has developed an unbreakable will operates from a psychological foundation that is fundamentally different from ordinary determination. Their commitment to their goals is not dependent on favorable conditions, external support, or reasonable probability of success. Their will persists regardless of circumstances because it has been tested against circumstances and proven stronger than any external force. This unbreakable will manifests first as what we might call circumstance independence, the ability to maintain full commitment to your objectives regardless of what conditions you face. While others adjust their goals based on their circumstances, the person with unbreakable will adjust their circumstances to match their goals. When resources become scarce, they find ways to achieve their objectives with fewer resources. When support disappears, they develop self-reliance that makes external support unnecessary. When criticism intensifies, they develop internal validation that makes external approval irrelevant. When obstacles multiply, they develop problem-solving capabilities that turn obstacles into stepping stones. This circumstance independence creates what military leaders call mission-first mentality, the absolute prioritization of objective achievement over personal comfort, social approval, or conventional limitations. The person with unbreakable will doesn't ask whether achieving their goals is possible under current conditions. They ask what they must become to make achievement inevitable under any conditions. The unbreakable will also manifests as failure immunity, the psychological state where setbacks, disappointments, and even significant failures cannot diminish commitment to long-term objectives. The person with failure immunity doesn't fear failure because they've experienced failure repeatedly and discovered that failure is temporary while will is permanent. This failure immunity enables more aggressive pursuit of ambitious goals because the fear of failure no longer constrains decision-making. The person with unbreakable will can attempt challenges with high failure probabilities because they know that failure will teach them what they need to know for eventual success, while success will advance them toward their ultimate objectives. The unbreakable will creates what entrepreneurs call pivot capacity, the ability to change strategies, methods, and approaches while maintaining unwavering commitment to core objectives. The person with unbreakable will doesn't become attached to specific plans because their attachment is to outcomes rather than methods. This pivot capacity enables adaptation to changing circumstances without losing momentum toward ultimate goals. When initial strategies prove ineffective, the person with unbreakable will seamlessly transitions to alternative approaches without experiencing the doubt and hesitation that derail people with weaker determination. Perhaps most powerfully, the unbreakable will generates what could be called reality distortion, the ability to create outcomes that seem impossible to others because the intensity of will creates possibilities that don't exist for people with ordinary determination. The person with unbreakable will doesn't just overcome obstacles, they inspire others to help them attract resources that wouldn't otherwise be available and generate opportunities that emerge specifically because of their demonstrated commitment. This reality distortion occurs because extreme will is so rare that it commands respect and support even from people who don't share the will holder's specific goals. Others recognize the power of absolute determination and want to align themselves with it, creating collaborative opportunities that multiply the will holder's individual capabilities. The unbreakable will also creates what we might call time independence, the ability to maintain maximum effort and commitment regardless of how long goal achievement takes. While others lose motivation when progress seems slow, the person with unbreakable will maintains full intensity whether their objectives take months, years, or decades to achieve. This time, independence enables pursuit of truly significant goals that require extended effort over multiple years or decades. The person with unbreakable will can commit to mastery-level development, generational wealth building, or cultural impact projects that are impossible for people who need quick results to maintain motivation. The development of unbreakable will requires what could be called commitment crystallization, the psychological process where preferences become convictions, interests become obsessions, and goals become identity. The person with unbreakable will doesn't just want to achieve their objectives. They cannot imagine being the kind of person who would abandon those objectives. This commitment crystallization makes goal abandonment literally inconceivable. The person's identity becomes so intertwined with their objectives that changing goals would require changing who they are at the most fundamental level. This psychological integration creates determination that cannot be shaken because it's not separate from the person's core identity. Finally, the unbreakable will creates what could be called destiny magnetism, the phenomenon where absolute commitment to specific outcomes seems to draw those outcomes into reality through mechanisms that transcend ordinary cause and effect. The person with unbreakable will doesn't just work toward their goals, they become magnetic centers that attract whatever resources, opportunities, and support are necessary for goal achievement. This destiny magnetism occurs because unbreakable will creates such intense focus and energy that it influences everything in the person's environment. Their absolute commitment communicates itself to others, creating collaborative opportunities. Their unwavering focus identifies possibilities that others miss. Their relentless persistence creates momentum that generates its own opportunities. The person who has developed unbreakable will through systematic hardship, embrace becomes a force of nature that cannot be stopped, diverted, or diminished by any external circumstance. They achieve outcomes that seem miraculous to others, not through supernatural intervention, but through the natural result of absolute commitment meeting properly developed capabilities. Hardships strengthen resolve, but only for those brave enough to embrace the hardship, rather than simply endure it, wise enough to extract strength from difficulty, rather than simply surviving it, and determined enough to seek out challenges rather than waiting for them to find you. The choice is before you. The forge awaits. Your unbreakable will is waiting to be forged. What will you choose to become? Hardships do not just strengthen resolve. They reveal resolve, develop resolve, and ultimately become resolve. The person who has properly embraced difficulty doesn't just have strong determination, they become determination itself, will made manifest in human form. Your destiny is not determined by your circumstances, but by how you respond to your circumstances. Your potential is not limited by your starting conditions, but by your willingness to use whatever conditions you face as raw material for becoming stronger. The forge is always burning. The hammer is always ready. The only question is whether you will place yourself on the anvil and allow the hardships of life to shape you into something unbreakable, or whether you will avoid the forge and remain forever soft, forever weak, forever limited by your refusal to be strengthened. This choice cannot be postponed or modified. Every day you spend avoiding difficulty is a day you spend becoming weaker. Every challenge you sidestep is strength you fail to develop. Every comfortable choice you make, instead of a challenging one, is potential you abandon rather than realize. The path of comfort promises ease, but delivers weakness. It offers immediate relief from difficulty, while ensuring that you remain forever vulnerable to the kinds of challenges that life inevitably presents. The comfortable person lives in constant anxiety about what will happen when their protective circumstances change, because they know they lack the strength to handle serious adversity. The path of deliberate hardship promises difficulty, but delivers strength. It offers immediate challenge while ensuring that you develop the capabilities necessary to handle whatever circumstances arise. The hardship embracer lives with confidence about the future because they know they can handle whatever challenges emerge. If you choose comfort, understand what you are accepting. You are choosing to remain weak, while hoping that weakness will be sufficient for achieving your goals. You are accepting dependency on favorable circumstances, while knowing that circumstances are beyond your control. You are embracing limitation, while hoping that limitation will somehow produce the extraordinary outcomes you desire. You are choosing to be the kind of person who breaks under pressure, rather than the kind who becomes stronger under pressure. You are accepting that your capabilities will be determined by your genetics and early circumstances, rather than by your conscious development through deliberate challenge. But if you choose hardship, if you decide to actively seek difficulty as your primary development tool, you are accepting something far more demanding and far more rewarding. You are choosing to become stronger than your natural inclinations, more capable than your initial talents, and more resilient than your comfortable circumstances would ever develop. You are embracing the understanding that every challenge you face is an opportunity to become more than you were before facing it. You are accepting that temporary discomfort is the price of permanent strength, that present difficulty is the cost of future capability, that today's hardship is tomorrow's advantage. You now stand at the threshold of the most important decision you will ever make. You can continue seeking comfort, avoiding difficulty, and hoping that life will provide you with favorable circumstances that require no special strength to handle. Or you can embrace hardship as your primary tool for developing the kind of resolve that makes all circumstances manageable and all goals achievable. The ultimate mastery of hardship comes not from simply enduring the difficulties that life presents, but from strategically seeking out challenges that will develop specific capabilities you need for achieving your most important goals. This deliberate hardship selection transforms you from someone who reacts to circumstances into someone who creates circumstances that serve your development. Most people approach hardship reactively. They handle difficulties when forced to, but otherwise avoid challenges whenever possible. This reactive approach means they develop strength only accidentally and incompletely, building capabilities randomly rather than systematically, and remaining vulnerable to types of challenges they haven't encountered. The strategic hardship seeker studies successful people in their field and identifies the types of challenges those individuals have overcome. They analyze what capabilities are required for their most ambitious goals and deliberately create situations that will develop those capabilities through controlled adversity. For example, if your ultimate goal requires public speaking ability, you don't wait for speaking opportunities to be forced upon you. You deliberately create speaking challenges that progressively develop your capabilities. You start with small, low-stakes presentations and gradually increase the difficulty level until you can handle high-pressure speaking situations with confidence and skill. If your goals require leadership capabilities, you don't wait to be promoted into leadership positions. You seek out volunteer opportunities, take on project leadership roles, and place yourself in situations where you must influence others to achieve objectives. You deliberately practice leadership under increasingly challenging conditions until you develop unshakable leadership confidence. This deliberate challenge creation requires what military trainers call progressive overload, gradually increasing difficulty levels to ensure continuous development without overwhelming your current capabilities. You design challenge sequences that stretch you just beyond your comfort zone while remaining within your capability zone. The key is creating challenges that are difficult enough to require genuine growth, but not so overwhelming that they create trauma rather than strength. This requires honest assessment of your current capabilities and strategic planning of development sequences that will systematically expand those capabilities. Strategic hardship seeking also involves what entrepreneurs call failure farming, deliberately creating low-cost opportunities to experience and learn from failure before encountering high-stakes situations where failure would be catastrophic. You practice failing in controlled environments to develop resilience and recovery skills. This might involve starting side businesses that can fail without threatening your financial security, attempting creative projects that can be abandoned without professional consequences, or pursuing relationship connections that can end without social devastation. The goal is to experience the full emotional and practical impact of failure while limiting its potential to cause permanent damage. Through this failure farming, you develop immunity to the fear of failure that paralyzes most people when they face important opportunities. You learn that failure is survivable, educational, and often beneficial for long-term development. You discover that the anticipation of failure is usually worse than the actual experience of failure. The systematic hardship seeker also practices what special forces personnel call stress inoculation, deliberately placing yourself in high-pressure situations to develop the ability to perform effectively under adverse conditions. You create artificial deadlines, resource constraints, and performance pressures that simulate the conditions you'll face in real high-stakes situations. This stress inoculation training ensures that when genuine pressure situations arise, you're already experienced at maintaining effectiveness under stress. While others are overwhelmed by conditions they've never experienced, you're operating with familiar competence in conditions you've deliberately practiced. The strategic approach also includes what athletes call cross-training, developing strength in areas that don't directly relate to your primary goals, but that enhance your overall resilience and capability. Physical challenges can develop mental toughness. Creative challenges can develop problem-solving flexibility. Social challenges can develop communication and influence skills. This cross-training creates what systems theorists call redundant capabilities, multiple sources of strength that can compensate for each other when specific capabilities are unavailable or insufficient. The person with broad-based hardship training becomes anti-fragile rather than simply resilient. Perhaps most importantly, strategic hardship seeking involves what we might call voluntary adversity, choosing difficult paths when easier paths are available, because the difficult paths offer superior development opportunities. You choose challenging jobs over comfortable ones, demanding relationships over easy ones, ambitious projects over safe ones. This voluntary adversity selection requires overriding your natural comfort-seeking instincts and making decisions based on long-term development rather than short-term ease. It means consistently choosing the path that makes you stronger rather than the path that makes you more comfortable. The person who masters voluntary adversity develops what could be called challenge appetite, genuine enthusiasm for difficult situations, because they recognize difficulty as the raw material for strength development. They begin to crave challenges the way others crave comfort, because they understand the relationship between adversity and growth. This challenge appetite creates a positive feedback loop, where increased strength enables handling greater challenges, which develop greater strength, which enables handling even greater challenges. The person becomes progressively more capable of achieving extraordinary outcomes because they've systematically developed extraordinary capabilities through deliberate hardship exposure. The ultimate goal of strategic hardship seeking is to become what Nassim Taleb calls anti-fragile, someone who gets stronger rather than weaker under stress, who benefits rather than suffers from volatility, who improves rather than deteriorates under pressure. The anti-fragile person doesn't just survive hardship, they use hardship as fuel for becoming more capable than they were before the hardship occurred. Character, like metal, is strengthened through the application of heat and pressure. The raw material of human potential requires the forge of hardship to transform it from soft, malleable possibility into hard, durable capability. Without this forging process, character remains weak, unreliable, and unsuited for the demands that meaningful achievement requires. Understanding this metallurgical metaphor is crucial for recognizing why hardship is not your enemy, but your most valuable ally in the process of becoming everything you're capable of becoming. Just as a sword cannot be forged without fire, an unbreakable will cannot be developed without the sustained application of difficulty, pressure, and challenge. The forging process begins with heat, the application of stress that brings your character's impurities to the surface, where they can be identified and eliminated. When you face genuine difficulty, your weaknesses become visible, your lack of preparation is exposed, your character flaws are revealed, your untested assumptions are challenged. The comfortable person experiences this exposure as trauma and seeks to end it as quickly as possible. They want to return to the safety of untested assumptions and unexposed weaknesses. But the person who understands hardship as character development recognizes these moments of exposure as invaluable opportunities for improvement. Each weakness revealed through hardship is a weakness that can now be addressed and strengthened. Each character flaw exposed under pressure is a flaw that can now be corrected. Each untested assumption challenged by difficulty is an assumption that can now be replaced with proven knowledge. The person who embraces this forging process emerges from hardship stronger than they entered it. Not because the hardship was easy, but because they used it as development rather than simply enduring it as suffering. They extract maximum value from minimum comfort, while the comfort seeker extracts minimum value from maximum ease. Consider how this forging process works in professional challenges. When you're assigned a project that seems beyond your current capabilities, the heat of this challenge brings your skill deficiencies to the surface. You discover gaps in your knowledge, limitations in your experience, and weaknesses in your preparation. The comfortable person feels overwhelmed by this exposure and seeks to avoid similar challenges in the future. They interpret the difficulty as evidence that they're not qualified for higher-level responsibilities. They retreat to safer assignments that don't expose their limitations, but also don't provide opportunities to address those limitations. The hardship embracer recognizes the same exposure as a development roadmap. They identify exactly what capabilities need to be developed and create focused improvement plans. They seek additional training, find mentors who can guide their development, and deliberately practice the skills that the challenge revealed they needed. When the next difficult assignment arrives, they approach it with enhanced capabilities developed through the previous challenge. Over time, they become capable of handling increasingly complex responsibilities because each challenge has made them stronger rather than more cautious. The pressure aspect of character forging comes through the sustained application of demands that require you to perform beyond your comfort zone for extended periods. This pressure compacts your character, eliminating the spaces where weakness can hide and creating the density that strength requires. Brief, intense challenges create momentary strength that fades when the challenge ends. Sustained pressure creates permanent character changes that persist regardless of external circumstances. The person who has endured months or years of significant challenge develops a kind of internal strength that cannot be shaken by temporary setbacks or minor difficulties. This sustained pressure also creates what military personnel call stress inoculation, the ability to maintain effective performance under adverse conditions. The person who has learned to work effectively while tired, scared, uncertain, or under criticism develops capabilities that are unavailable to those who can only perform well under ideal conditions. The hammering aspect of character forging comes through repeated impacts that gradually shape your character into the form required for your destiny. Each individual hardship may seem insignificant, but the accumulated effect of many challenges creates fundamental changes in how you approach problems, handle pressure, and evaluate possibilities. The person who has been hammered by repeated challenges develops reflexes and instincts that serve them automatically in future difficult situations. They don't have to consciously decide how to respond to pressure because they've developed unconscious competence at handling whatever challenges arise. This hammering process also creates what we might call hardship tolerance, the ability to function normally under conditions that would overwhelm people who have not been properly forged. What feels like crisis to the comfortable person feels like normal operating conditions to the person whose character has been properly strengthened. The quenching process in metallurgy involves rapid cooling that locks in the strength created during heating. In character development, this quenching comes through the moments of reflection and integration that follow intense challenges. The person who simply moves from one difficulty to another without processing the lessons and strength developed through each challenge fails to complete the forging process. The properly forged person takes time after each significant challenge to identify what capabilities were developed, what weaknesses were eliminated, and what new understanding was gained. They consciously integrate these developments into their character rather than simply surviving challenges without extracting their developmental value. Finally, the tempering process involves controlled reheating that reduces brittleness while maintaining strength. In character development, this tempering comes through deliberately seeking moderate challenges that maintain your edge without creating overwhelming stress. The properly developed person doesn't just endure extreme hardship, they actively manage their challenge level to ensure continued growth without unnecessary damage. This tempering process prevents the kind of hardship addiction that can develop among people who mistake suffering for strength. True character development uses hardship strategically rather than seeking difficulty for its own sake. The goal is maximum strength development with minimum unnecessary suffering. Comfort is the silent killer of human potential. It operates so subtly that most people never recognize how profoundly it has weakened them until they face a challenge that comfort has left them completely unprepared to handle. The comfortable person believes they are living well, but they are actually dying slowly, allowing their capabilities to atrophy through disuse, while their resolve dissolves through lack of testing. Watch how comfort-seeking people respond to even minor difficulties. A delayed flight creates genuine distress. An unexpected bill generates anxiety. A critical comment produces emotional crisis. A change in routine feels overwhelming. These individuals have become so dependent on predictable, manageable circumstances that they have lost the capacity to handle the normal uncertainties and challenges that life inevitably presents. The comfortable person measures their life by the absence of problems rather than by the presence of achievements. They evaluate their success by how little difficulty they experience rather than by how much they accomplish. They organize their entire existence around avoiding discomfort, while wondering why their lives feel meaningless and their accomplishments feel insignificant. This comfort-seeking creates what psychologists call learned helplessness, even among intelligent, educated people. They develop sophisticated strategies for avoiding challenges, while never developing the basic psychological strength required to overcome challenges. They become experts at minimizing risk while remaining incapable of maximizing opportunity. Consider the career trajectory of someone who consistently chooses comfort over challenge. They select safe jobs that don't stretch their capabilities. They avoid projects that might involve failure or criticism. They stay in familiar industries rather than learning new fields that could expand their possibilities. They prioritize work-life balance over work-life achievement. Over decades, this comfort-seeking creates a profound disadvantage compared to individuals who actively seek difficult assignments, embrace uncertain opportunities, and prioritize capability development over immediate satisfaction. The comfort seeker remains at entry or mid-level positions, while challenge seekers advance to leadership roles that require exactly the kind of resolve that can only be developed through embracing difficulty. The financial habits of comfort seekers reveal the same pattern. They avoid investments that involve uncertainty, preferring the guaranteed mediocrity of safe returns to the potential volatility of higher-performing assets. They spend money on immediate pleasures rather than investing in capabilities or opportunities that would enhance their long-term financial position. The comfortable person retires with modest savings, while the hardship embracer retires with substantial wealth, not because they had different incomes, but because they developed different relationships with uncertainty and risk. One sought to minimize discomfort, while the other learned to extract value from discomfort. In relationships, comfort-seeking creates another form of weakness. The comfort-oriented person chooses partners who don't challenge them to grow, friends who don't inspire them to excel, and social environments that don't require them to develop new capabilities or express higher levels of performance. They maintain relationships based on familiarity and ease, rather than mutual development and shared ambitious goals. They avoid the difficult conversations that could deepen connections and the challenging dynamics that could strengthen character. They prefer harmonious mediocrity to the temporary discomfort that authentic growth requires. This relationship comfort-seeking creates a social environment that reinforces weakness rather than developing strength. The comfortable person becomes surrounded by others who also prioritize ease over excellence, creating echo chambers of limitation where no one challenges anyone else to reach their potential. Physical comfort-seeking creates perhaps the most visible weakness of all. The person who avoids physical discomfort gradually loses the basic capabilities that humans are designed to possess. They cannot handle temperature variations, cannot endure physical exertion, cannot function effectively when tired or hungry. This physical weakness extends into mental and emotional weakness because the mind and body are integrated systems. The person who cannot handle physical discomfort typically cannot handle mental or emotional discomfort either. They seek quick relief from any form of stress, rather than developing the capacity to function effectively under pressure. The comfortable person has essentially trained themselves to be fragile. They have created lives that require perfect conditions to function well, while making themselves incapable of handling imperfect conditions. When hardship inevitably arrives, as it always does, they collapse rather than rise to meet the challenge. But perhaps the most devastating aspect of comfort-seeking is how it prevents you from discovering your actual capabilities. The person who avoids difficulty never learns what they're truly capable of achieving when pushed to their limits. They remain forever uncertain about their real strength because they've never tested it against genuine challenges. This uncertainty creates a profound anxiety that underlies all comfort-seeking behavior. The comfortable person is actually terrified of difficulty, not because they know they cannot handle it, but because they don't know whether they can handle it. Their comfort-seeking is an elaborate avoidance strategy designed to prevent them from discovering their own limitations or their own power. The person who embraces hardship, by contrast, develops what we might call tested confidence, self-assurance based on proven ability to handle whatever challenges arise. They know their capabilities because they've tested them. They trust their resilience because they've demonstrated it. They approach new challenges with confidence because they've successfully overcome previous challenges. This tested confidence creates a completely different relationship with difficulty. Instead of seeing hardship as threat, they see it as opportunity. Instead of experiencing challenges as problems to be avoided, they experience them as training to be embraced. Instead of fearing difficulty, they seek it out as the most reliable method for continuing their development. Tonight we explore the most dangerous truth about human potential, that your greatest strength lies not in avoiding difficulty, but in seeking it out, not in minimizing pain, but in extracting maximum value from it, not in hoping for easier circumstances, but in becoming the kind of person for whom no circumstances are too difficult to overcome. This is not motivational rhetoric about finding silver linings or maintaining positive attitudes through tough times. This is the recognition that hardship is the universe's method for separating the strong from the weak, the resolved from the wavering, the destined from the ordinary. And most importantly, it's the understanding that you can consciously use adversity as your primary tool for developing the kind of resolve that makes all other tools unnecessary. Every comfortable person you know is weak. Every individual who has lived a life of ease remains fragile, unprepared, and fundamentally limited in their capabilities. Every person who has avoided hardship has also avoided the opportunity to discover what they're truly capable of becoming when everything else is stripped away. Over the next hour, we will examine hardship, not as misfortune, but as methodology, not as suffering to endure, but as training to embrace, not as evidence that life is difficult, but as proof that you are being prepared for something that requires maximum strength. You will discover why the most successful people actively seek difficulty and why your resolve, not your talent, luck, or circumstances, determines everything about what you can achieve. By the end of this exploration, you will understand that the choice facing you is not whether you will encounter hardship, but whether you will use that hardship to become stronger or allow it to make you weaker.